Look, I have no choice but to make a response, and I wanted to wait a couple of days before I actually made a comment about what took place at Uluru. And what I want to talk about today uh, is something that I never thought I'd have to do. I never wanted, we've been attacked for years and years. And since we got involved in this prophecy, we've been attacked constantly. And I've said to Eva many times, we're not getting in the gutter. If they want to say bad things about us, we're just not going to make an issue. But I feel like I'm forced to say something, and I'm going to make this point. It's the only time I'm going to make this commentary. I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to do it once. We're going to make a response to all the things that have been put out by people who are trying to destroy this in different ways. Sometimes they've got an agenda, sometimes they've got an ego, and sometimes they just don't know. I want to make a point also. Just because an elder said something, they're not gods, they're people. And everyone here is a person. And remember this, we've incarnated time after time after time. And the ones who are here now are the rubbish at the back of the pack. I also want to make another point. I know for a fact that every original community in Australia is destroyed. It is struggling, and to varying degrees, most of those communities still haven't got their act together. That's just the truth of it. Some are closer than others. I went to Uluru assuming that there was something different there, and I found out it's just like the same as everyone else. Now, what I'm going to do this time around is, for the first time ever when I do a talk, I've actually written down some things that I think need to be said, and I want to make sure I cover them all. And I want to start with a quote from Dolores Cannon, and it says this: "This can be a period of fear and panic, or it can be a period of spiritual transformation. You choose." Now, this is a choice for every colour. And don't think that one colour has a mortgage on the truth. None do. We're all struggling in different ways. Now, when I talk about this, I'm going to be talking, to begin with, as much as I never wanted to do this, with different criticisms and people who've made comments about what we're doing, and they've been negative. I will never use a name. I'm going to divorce myself from that. Oh, they have, but we're not going to do that. What I am going to say is I'm talking not so much to those who hate and despise us, because I don't believe whatever we said. No matter what we say, they'll find a way around it. And I'll give you an example later of that. I'm talking to those who believe this is right, to give them strength during this criticism, and it'll continue. I've been told they're going to be continuing to do this all the way through. They will fight this to the finish. And I'm giving it for those who are wavering, so that they can have some strength to understand all these negative comments are not true. It's that simple. They're not true. I'm speaking in behalf of Urchin, black fella, white fella dreaming. We're all equal and we share. I'm also speaking after hearing the stories that Barbara Randall told me about Bobby Randall. I want to speak, and I didn't think I can say the word right, it's Kanyini or something like that. My apologies to Barbara if I got it wrong. And what I'm also going to say is I want to offer my hand in friendship and cooperation to our enemies and forgive them for what they've said, because it may well be they've been told by others. And I want to make a point here. When I was a teacher and people were fighting, kids were fighting, I never went to one person and said what happened and took that as gospel. I went to both people, and then I worked out where the truth was. Now, I can tell you that every critic we have, bar one, has never spoken to us directly, never engaged us in conversation, never raised issues with us. They've put it on electronic media, which to an extent is a coward's way of doing things. If you can't talk to someone face to face about an issue, then don't do it. This media brings out the worst in people, and this is the only time I'm going to stoop down near the gutter, but I will not walk in the gutter. I'll stand near it. Now I'm going to turn over now. I've read that quote there, and I'm going to go through the things that have been raised. Number one, this has not been sanctioned by the Anungu elders and the elders of that area, and we've gone off on a tangent and made up our own story. That's been said so often, so often. Now, I've said all the way along, all the way, every time, I wasn't sure if the ceremony was going to work. And I was working with people who were telling me via someone else. And I made that clear every time. And I'm going to be honest, when I got there, I still wasn't sure this was going to happen. In fact, I got information from Mick and Catherine saying someone they spoke to said they knew nothing about the ceremony. So even when I was there, I was still wondering. And I got in contact with one of the interlocutors I still trusted, Alan. Was his name? That's the only time I'm going to mention anyone's name, but I won't give his last one, so there's still a bit of there's give and take in this. And what he said to me about this ceremony, he said, strap on your seatbelt and get ready for the ride. And that night, and no one's going to believe this, for the first time ever, Kano made contact with me to confirm this was going to happen. So, one day out, still wasn't sure. Now, for those who said we are not in contact with the Anungu, I'm going to tell you now, you are wrong. You are wrong. Because we got a phone call, and I'm not mentioning her name, she knows who she is, where she rang me directly. And she rang me to tell me, where have you got a pen? Evan's here. Right, I want you to write this down. And we had to repeat it. Evan, did you have to write things down and repeat them and read it out?
Yes, several times.
Several times. They were specific about this. They were giving us the information. And the information they gave us, and you probably heard about this, we changed the time. The time was wrong. But I want to make a point about this. I was approached by a person who's probably our greatest enemy, and he approached me and contacted me and wanted to see the rocks and said they needed to be there. And he told me this. It would be 9:02 because that's when the park closes at 9 o'clock. I didn't know that. And they needed a couple of minutes time in ceremony and would happen there at that time. Later on he says, oh no, I never told them that. They must have got it wrong. I didn't say that. Oh, I said that, but I meant that for Sydney time. He did not. He told me that the park closes then. I didn't know when it closed. I've never been there. So we took, and what I thought is when he attacked us later on and said the most horrible thing to him, we've never responded to it, I thought at the start he was telling me the truth and he lost his way. I realise now I was being set up from the very beginning for this to fail. Anyway, we got this phone call, so Evan wrote it down word for word, and it was at least 1 hour before and 1 hour after. Now, I'm going to make a point. During the whole of this time, not once were we told they knew that we were going to do something. Not once were we told we couldn't do a ceremony, just that it had to be done at the right time. That's what was said. We were not told no, we were told do it this way. Now, at that end of that sort of conversation, where we wrote down everything we were supposed to say, and we told her, we've got a problem here. Because she said, and I said this, I said, look, you've told me one day before. You've known we've had this time up for months. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Oh, you know, things take time and stuff like that. And I said, well, I've got one day. And then this person said, well, then just put it up on your computer. Here we are at Uluru. Evan been trying to get on his computer for quite some time through the phone and couldn't do it. I said, we got a problem. We can't put it up. We don't know what to do. You've given us one day. There are millions of people doing this. How are we going to get this around? One day to fix it up. We're in trouble. And then near the end there, this person also started to run off Mick and Catherine and the conference and said they're rubbish, they're appropriating our stuff, they're stealing our stuff, we've got no respect for them. I said, well, hang on for a sec. I'm going back in there. There's 350 people in there, and they are the people who are going to save me. I'm going to ask every one of them to contact everybody they know and spread the news. I said, without them, we're done for. Those people there were my last hope to get this through. We had no way of doing this. We couldn't get into our computer. We did. We tried for hours and hours. I got my other son to break in there, and finally we got in and put it up. It took us hours later. But at that particular time, we couldn't get in. So we were done in the water, and I got quite offended by that, and I made that clear. And then at the end of this conversation, I said, well, what about these rocks? What's going on with them? Now, I'm not going to go through what happened past that point, but I'm going to make the point that, yes, they wanted the rocks there. And we had a disagreement, which I'm not going to go on about. And I figured to myself, well, you're doing the ceremony anyway. I think those rocks need to be with the mob I'm with to get their ceremony as strong as it can. Now, the second point. We've been told, how dare you go onto sacred country and do this ceremony? Number one, we didn't. When they were going, to begin with, the group were going into Uluru, I told them I'm not taking the rocks in there. I can't do a ceremony on that area around there. It's not possible. What I said was I was going to conduct a ceremony at Sales where the pool is. It's a lovely grassed area, and I was going to set it up there. That's not sacred ground. That's been bought. That's been owned by people. It's not a sacred place. So don't give me that story. So therefore, I said I was going to do it there. And then in the morning, when this was going to happen, mysteriously at 10 o'clock, for the first time ever, the park was closed and their access was denied. And they were destroyed because they thought they were going to go close there from 6:30 to 8:30 before it was closed, but they were told nobody in. What were they going to do? They grabbed me. We went and saw the director of sales, the whole region, and we said, what are we going to do? Everyone was pretty upset. Catherine and Mick were very upset because they told everyone this. And then the gentleman said, let me see if I can find something to resolve this. So we went back there. Nobody was doing anything. And then he came back and he offered us a spot within the complex. And it wasn't sacred grounds. It was a football field, an Aussie rules football field with posts on both sides and a toilet, and there were buildings all around. And we said, okay. And I said, right, there, I'll set the rocks up and we will do a rock ceremony. And around the world, I told people, do any sort of ceremony you want. It didn't matter as long as you were reverent and you did it the right way and it was all positive. So that's good. We're going along there. We set this up. And then lo and behold, one of the attacks we got was, how dare you take this into sacred ground and insult the Anungu? Remember, they've rung us the day before. They've rung us and said, this is how you've got to do it. This is the time. We were not told we couldn't do it. And if they wanted to tell us not to do it, they could have said so then. They did not. And it was funny. And we wrote back and said, give us a break. It was done on a football field. And then he wrote back and said, how can you do a ceremony that isn't on sacred ground? I mean, how am I going to win with people like that? I probably won't. But again, please, the people who said that, think about what we're saying now and think carefully about where you're taking this. So, there we are. We did the ceremony. And of course, I know the elders did a ceremony there, but I want to explain something about that ceremony. They put the keys in the ignition and the engine turned over, but it wasn't going to go into fifth gear, fourth gear, third gear, or second gear, or first gear. It was going nowhere. It was up to the rest of the world, because this is Wirrachin, or Kanyini, however I say that. My apologies to Barbara if I got it wrong, but I've got to mention it because it's important, because Bobby Randall and Kana are on about exactly the same thing, sharing it together. So we started that ceremony. Now, I want to make another point. After that ceremony was done, it was brilliant, and I'll get to that further down the line. But I believe recently an elder whose name I won't mention because I'm not doing that has made a couple of points. Number one, that, oh, by the way, the elder said to begin with, I wasn't there. I belong to this group, but I wasn't there. Well, that's interesting. How can you make a comment about what happened if you're not there? But I'll leave that. But said two things. Number one, it wasn't sanctioned by the Anungu. Wrong. It was sanctioned because they rang us and told us what we could and couldn't do, and we read out exactly what they said. It was sanctioned. Number two, then attacked and said every speaker there should be ashamed of themselves. Let's get this right. These people have been doing this ceremony, this conference here, for 5, maybe 10 years. Every time, twice a year, every time. And I can tell you, most of those speakers knew nothing about this. Why are they being attacked? They did nothing wrong. They talked about meditation. They talked about channeling. They talked about all that new age stuff that people get upset with. Beautiful people and had a great time. Some of the stuff at that conference didn't gel with me, but I respect the fact that others like to hear it. And I'm not going to stand up and say, this is a load of crap. I might have thought, well, I don't get it, but I never thought that. I never thought that. I just thought that's for other people and it makes them happy. Now, let's talk about these speakers that all should be condemned. That includes Auntie Minnie Mace, that talked about her story from elsewhere. It includes Barbara Randall, Bobby Randall's wife. And she spoke about Kanyini and him. Never said a word about the ceremony. She wasn't sure about it either herself. Just like me, she had doubts and so did I. Um, what was Bostock's? What was her first name? Is it Christine Bostock? Shorter Bostock spoke about Uncle Jerry and his story. Nothing about this. They're all original people, as I am, and I and Evan were the only ones who spoke about the ceremony. So if you're going to attack the speakers, leave them alone and attack us alone. The rest don't count. They weren't part of it. You can't blame people that had nothing to do with this. If you want to blame anyone, do what everyone does. Slag us. We're used to it. We expect it. But don't pick on people that come along just to have a great time and enjoy themselves. It's just not fair. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to make a point. Just because an elder said, don't drop on your knees and say, oh my God, whatever you say is correct. I've been with a lot of elders, man, and most of them I listen to, and I listen to some of it, and some I don't listen to at all. Don't think they're gods. They're not. We're all broken, and none of us have a mortgage on the truth. And this elder has no mortgage on the truth because she wasn't there. Secondly, we received the phone call. And thirdly, don't blame people who had nothing to do with this. It's not fair on them, and it's wrong. I'm sorry if I'm a bit annoyed, but I felt sorry for those people because they deserve more respect than that. The ceremony I conducted was with the rocks, and I aimed the rocks at Uluru. And where we were, we couldn't even see Uluru. I aimed at one of the goalposts because that's roughly the direction. And I set it up in a way that would create massive energy, and I pushed it outwards to all the people who sat around there. And we did that ceremony. And let me just check on my book there. Okay, just to see where we're going. Right. We did the ceremony. And I noticed in one comment, one of the people there covered themselves in white ochre, and they said that's an offence because they're not white. No, you haven't got it anymore. Spirit, as Kano told me time after time, knows no colour. Black, white, red, purple. We're all the same. And this is a time where we come together. Saying that, you're splitting us into groups. That's over. That's old, wrong talk. If he wants to put paint on there, he can do it. Now, the group we had, we went through there, I'm just checking again. Right, they had a magnificent time. And if you were there, you would know that. And the signs were all over the place, and I'll talk about them later on. They had a great time and have come back time after time and said it was one of the best days of their life. They gave joy, they gave energy, they gave positivity, and we had our 20 minutes of silence around before 7:32 and after, where everyone was quiet and they sent their energy there through the rocks. And I'm going to tell you, we were the closest, and what we put in kicked that machine into first gear. And without that, it wouldn't have gone into first gear. Then it came from all over the world to kick this up and make it go higher and higher. And we have proof. That's coming. You're going to be drip-fed proof for the next 3 or 4 weeks. Photos have come in, information has come in that is amazing. And I'll talk about 3 of them in a second. It's in a list here, and I've got to go through the list. Okay. Before and after, they did different things. There were different people playing crystal bowls. There were people who were playing the didge. And I'm going to make a point. I'm aware of the fact the didge is not local to there. But I'm not going to step in and say, hey, this is not fitting in there. This was their ceremony. The rocks didn't mind because I told people around the world, express your joy any way you wish. And since if we're on their ground there, if we're on sacred ground, I would have told the didge player, you can't play. I know the didge is not there. I know that. And it's played around Australia, but it really does come from the top end. But we were not on sacred ground. We were on the football field near the toilets. And if you claim that's sacred ground, give up, mate. You just haven't got a clue. Okay, then what happens? And this is the other one we come up to. So many people are attacking this group. Now, don't spoil their joy. And we've been told time after time, and they're ripping into us and saying horrible things about us. I want to tell you something. Change the channel. If you watch a TV show you don't like, you turn it to another station. Why do you feel obliged to rip into people and say horrible things about them? The ceremony's over now. And what's going to happen will happen. Why do you need to keep attacking people? This is not the way to think now. It's gone. That sort of stuff is rubbish. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this. During the time this has happened, we've been attacked and we're used to it. We've had the government threaten to put us in jail. We've been called everything under the sun. We've been cursed. We've had death threats. It's been constant for the last 8 years now, probably, and it's ramped up. And now I noticed also that the person for the first time ever that equaled the rubbish we've got was Mick and Catherine, the people who run this ceremony. Oh my God, the cultural appropriation, the fact that they've done this, they've done that, it's horrible, and I've been told that all the time. We'd never met them face to face, nor have the people who spoke about this. And I can tell you now, they are really nice people. And they are the ones who gave us the tribe that we could work together with. And I'm going to honour them. I know them. They have good intentions. They meant well. And if they made a mistake, and we all do, it was done with the best intentions. And people say, oh, they've made money. And of course, we've been attacked about that too. We've been told, and here's the new one, cultural, what's that word? Appropriation, isn't it, Evan?
Yeah, that's
Oh my God, they were culturally appropriating and profiteering off the ceremony. Can I remind you, they've been doing it for 10 years and they booked this date about 18 months ago, and the only person that was talking about this was us. They're not culturally appropriating anything. They just asked us to speak. We're the ones who are offending them, people like that. Don't blame them. All they wanted to do was to make people happy and get them close to themselves and their spirits. What's wrong with that? Oh, and this time round they made a bit of a profit. Oh my God, they made a bit of a profit. Bruce Pascoe wrote a book. He made a bit of a profit. Bangara, they do dances. They make a bit of a profit. They're all culturally appropriating. And of course we are appropriating, aren't we, Evan? Oh yes, big time. Let's look at the appropriation we've done. We've ripped off other people. The Standing Stone site, with the exception of Athol Compton, nobody anywhere in Australia spoke about it. Richard Patterson found some notes from Slater, and he gave it to us. We went and saw the farmer, we got permission, we did archaeology, and we brought it out to the world. We didn't take it off any black fella. It was notes that we found, and then when we went there the first time, we had 10 elders that took us on site, and we went up to the place, we sung to the spirits. Kano called the 8 hawks that circled around us, and we knew the spirits gave us permission to go onto country. So we did it proper way, old way. Oh, we could also talk about the skulls we've got. Nobody knew they were there. Nobody in Australia knew they were there. We were called down to see them, and we brought them to the attention of the world. We didn't take them off anyone. We found those things and we spoke about them. The rocks. There's nobody talking about the rocks until Roz found one in her backyard 1.5 meters down, and from that point on we did not take one rock off country. They were bought on the open market going overseas or given to us. We don't take rocks off country. They're given to us and we're putting them back on country down in Adelaide, and that starts on January the 9th. I made an agreement with the Raminjeri that would be put there in a sacred formation and left in the ground forever. And people could come to the rocks, sit inside and learn off them, and they would be seed dreamed. That means that what that means is the rocks go inside those people and give them wisdom and knowledge and make them locked in to the old way of doing things. That's what the rocks are here for. That's going to take place. Some of those rocks, a few of them, we know where they come from. We'll notify those people. And if they've got ceremony, not put it in a museum, and they can sing to them, they take them back. But this will be a storage place to begin with. And some will go back onto other countries, but most, in fact nearly all of them, we don't know where they come from. And let me tell you a story about one of them. One of them does come from Armand Land. And Trevor, we took pictures of them to take them back up. And I said, if they want them, they can have them, Trevor. And he took the pictures around and he spoke to the elders. And they must be proper old weight elders, because they said this, it's ours. But we lost the song. We lost the dance. And what they said was this, leave them with a big group and they'll make a stronger portal. And it'll be a powerful place, and it will be. So when we go through this, oh, and by the way, there is one place, the rocks, the skulls, the rings we've got. A lot of original people said, why are you doing rings? Well, guess what? Of the 9 artifacts we've found from Atlantis and Lemuria, 4 were found in Australia. We're doing them because they're found here. I mean, 2 of the Atlantean rings were found in Hill End. The statue, that one, That was found in Sydney, all on 33 degrees. And then Auntie Minnie Mace gave me this amazing, and I've just found out recently it represents Troy, this amazing piece of metal that's 24% not found on this planet. That was found at Carrion, 33 degrees. All of these objects were found on 33 degrees, and that's the truth. And they're all in Australia, that's why we do them. But again, no one knew about them until we had them. But there's one site we do a lot that was known about. Carrion, the glyphs, the grandmother tree and the sacred objects around there. That was known about. And we could be accused of appropriating that. Except we work solely with the people there, Nina, Jake Cassar and Arnie Bev. The last full descent Darking Long person there. And when she died, the full descent line died. Can I make a point? Before she left, and the people know this is true, she took us there and gave us the Song of the Four Winds before she passed on. And she gave us the right to speak about that. So what have we appropriated? Nothing. What we've done is we've found things that were lost and brought them back. And our job, when we do our thousands, literally, of podcasts, we don't charge a cent. When we go around the country, we pay for it ourselves. And we do that all the time. And I stopped teaching to do this. And I was making money. I was up the top of the list there. I gave that all away to do this. And now people say to me, I can't have a cent in return. Well, how do I get to these places without money? How do I live without money? So we make a little bit of money out of this. And if you think that's appropriation, then I can't help you anymore. And don't tell me that they were appropriating anything. They were doing what they've been doing for a long, long time, and leave them alone. They are nice people, they are good people and have a great heart. Don't make them upset. They deserve respect and you're giving them none. And this business of attacking people, that's old way. If you don't like someone now, this is what you're supposed to do. Say nothing, walk away, say whatever, and if you think they're idiots, say, well then, the change has come, you're going to be done for. I won't judge you, I don't need to, you'll be judged yourself. Why do people feel they need to have to attack other people? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, a lot of negativities here, and I don't want to do this. The problem is we've got all this stuff going around when the ceremony has been utterly successful, and it did happen. And what I've got to do is talk about the people that are trying to destroy it. Now, you weren't there when those 350 odd people sat around the rocks. And if you were there and you saw their reaction and the joy in their face, the unbridled glee and happiness and contentment they got, what have they done wrong? What have I done wrong? I'm original too. I am the keeper of those rocks and I am allowed to give them ceremony. And every one of them was painted up with ash from Momoi, which was a sacred flame. 2 days before Kano left us, he did a ceremony. I was given that ash and I put it on each one of them because that's where the rocks are going. We were doing a rock ceremony. That's what we were doing. We weren't doing an Anungu ceremony. We weren't stealing anyone else's ceremony. I was conducting something I have a right to do. And no original person or non-original person can challenge my right to speak on behalf of the rocks because they work with me. And here's the point. Those who say I shouldn't have it, I'll tell you now, if I shouldn't, they would have killed me. And believe me, they can. They would have killed me outright. They've punished me a few times for making protocol mistakes, and I've had to learn the hard way. I've been thrown down cliffs. I've been thrown in front of a semi-trail that stopped about this far from my head for making mistakes, but they never killed me. They were teaching me lessons, and I learnt my lessons. I speak on behalf of the rocks, and no one can challenge me on that. And when they decided they didn't want to go to the rocks because that ceremony was taking place, but we were the next closest group to the rock. They wanted to do it from there. I accepted their advice on that. And that's what I told the Anungu spokesman who wrote out. I said, no, they'll stay with us and we'll do it here. And when they wrote back and said, look, do you want to come back? We didn't respond because we decided already then, okay, we know the ceremony is going to happen. We've got to do the best we can to help you with that ceremony. And now, in that respect, I want to make a point. We've been flooded with photographs, information and stories about what happens. We couldn't put it out at once because there's so much of it. Now, what Evan's going to put up later on today, he's going to put up 3 sets of pictures. One is a picture of the Schumann resonance. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want proof that the Earth reacted to this, and we've got it in picture form, believe me, we got it in picture form at the Rock. Something happened there that was amazing, and it was filmed. It was filmed. But I'm not going to put that straight away. We're going to do this gradually, piece by piece, and we're going to flood people with information of what happened. And it proves to me that the people who were involved in this around the world had palpable, obvious reactions and affirmations it was correct. Let's start with this. Have a look at the Schumann resonance. Evan will put it up later on today. It'll be on our website. And you're going to find it was running, what was it running at? 0.3, Evan?
What happens is it can vary and go up and down between 0.6 and 3.3 hertz.
Right.
But what happened during that ceremony time is it jumped up 30 hertz.
Yeah, it was 0.3 in a straight line around 7:32. It goes up to 30 hertz, and then it stayed for about 4 hours, didn't it, Evan?
Yep.
And then settled again. You know why that was the case? Because the people of the world turned it on. We as a group, remember this, that ceremony. Oh my God, I'm going longer than I thought, Evan. That ceremony
It's all good.
that we did, I didn't ask for it. Evan didn't ask for it. We didn't put up on our Facebook, okay, everyone, we want you to do ceremonies. People wrote to us independently all over the world and said permission to run one. And we said this, bring out your drums. Oh, by the way, one of our critics chastised an original man who said he wanted to dance there and said, you can't do that. Man, if somebody tells you how to pray, how to dance, don't listen to them. You should have realized straight away, when someone tells you, this is how you do it, don't do it. Don't listen to them. It's wrong. This has to come from each person. We had people there at the finish standing in rows, singing and dancing. It sounded like we were somewhere in an American Indian powwow. They were in lines dancing and singing, and they were joyous, and they were so happy. I've never seen a ceremony like it. There was so much good vibration there, and now people want to suck that away. Don't do it. You are insulting the rock. You're insulting my rocks. And by the way, I took my rocks out the day before to Uluru. I went to a family site, I went to a woman's site, and I went to a men's site. And on every occasion I was there, I had bird sign. And the last one was a hawk flying in front of our car when we left and picking up a snake and flying off. Kano called the hawks up at Standing Stone site. That was Kano giving that final affirmation after the third ceremony. I did that so that when we did ceremony, my rocks, I took 5 there, and by the way, one of them, the sacred women's object, I've given to Barbara, and she'll decide where it goes next. I'm happy if she keeps it, to be honest. I'm going to tell her that. She's so evolved, way past me, I can tell you that now. Her talk there was the best talk I've ever been to in my life. Killed our stuff 1,000 times over. Her and Bobby Randall, they are saints. Honestly, they should be running the show, not us. But anyway, this is what happened. We had the Schumann resonance that flew off the planet. And then something come in from Croatia. Oh, unbelievable. That's going up first. We had to put up one of the good ones. We're staggering around. That is just phenomenal. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You wait until you see it. You've got to go and see it for yourself. But if you want proof that the aliens weren't part of this, are part of this, well, it did happen at Uluru. Unfortunately, didn't it, Evan? It was there. And we'll put that up too. But I didn't want that. I was hoping that wouldn't happen because I don't want people to say, oh, I've seen the UFOs. Oh, I'm going to join the hippies, New Agers. I thought they were shit, but now I've seen that. I'll join them anyway. Well, I know people are going to look at this Croatia one and they're going to try and find a way to dismiss it. Good luck on that. But the ones who don't believe in this stuff, they'll find a way. I don't care. I don't care. But we're going to put that up. And the third thing we're going to put up is the clouds where we were. I remember speaking to Kay, who's a security guard at Uluru, at the sales, and she said the same thing. She said, I've never seeing clouds like this. I want to make the point, when I set the rocks up in formation, 2 galahs flew right over the top, and everyone saw it went right over the top of the formation once it was completed. Just like at Uluru, bird sign again, confirming to us the spirits were happy. Had an original woman there, came from Darwin, I think, and she's going to write in the report we put up in Nexus the fact that she saw an old fella standing in the distance there, watching us, nodding in agreement, and confirming what we were doing is correct. So if anyone tells me this wasn't right, look at the clouds. You're going to find the gold, the red, the different colors, and right in the middle of that cloud, at sunset, there is a gap in there of the deepest iridescent blue, the Pleiadian blue. And if you think, oh, that's just the sky, it was sunset, and you can see the sky underneath, and it's a washed out, faded sort of grey where there's no cloud there. So how do you go from washed out grey, virtually just as the sun is falling, to the deepest blue I've ever seen in my life? The sign of the 7 sisters was there. And that's the second one. That's the third one we're going to put up. We'll only put up some of those pictures from there. We've got so many. And we've got so many more to come. And as we put more out, we're going to drip feed this piece after piece. We're going to put in different stories that have been written to us about things that happen. But I'm going to share one with you. I know in Iceland, the lady's written back, and I'm going to get back to her later. They had hundreds involved in there, and they did the ceremony. Some did it inside, and some went outside. Bless you, all of you. You're wonderful what you've done. But, where was I? Evan, what was I up to before that?
You were talking about Iceland.
Yeah, before that. Come on, bookmark, help me out here.
Living Bookmark thinks you were talking about the different photos.
Yeah.
And iridescent blue.
Okay, I've got it. Okay, right. Yeah, thank you. That's why we keep Evan here. Sometimes I get lost when I go onto tangents. I've got a script here and I'm not looking at it anymore as usual. Okay, so we're going to put out these different pictures for you. We'll put them up time after time. Go to our website. We'll put them up in batches of 3 and 2. Oh, that's right, Evan, you didn't tell me. The cow. Oh dear, come on, mate. Why didn't you tell me about that?
Well, you know, my poor psychic powers.
Well, that's right, because I hadn't mentioned anything about it.
Yeah,
and it's not on the list here. But anyway, you should have known.
known.
The cow. I want to tell you this story. I think it was somewhere in Australia. It was just one person, not hundreds, not thousands, not tens of thousands. It was one person went out their own to a paddock. And she sat down and meditated. And she said, from nowhere, one cow came up and walked up alongside me and stood beside me and started crying. That means, ladies and gentlemen, the animals were with us too, and they could also sense it. Now, at 7:32, I've had feedback from other people around the world, and everyone felt it in different ways. It happened. I want to make a point. It happened because this is Wirrachin, Kanyini. We're all together on this one. It's one tribe, no colour. No, it doesn't matter what size you are, what age you are, what you look like. In this respect, what I saw in that football field, in the middle of this complex, next to the toilets, just to the right of the main goalpost that marks out where you get 6 points in AFL, what I saw there was the future. Everyone was laughing, and there was not a negative word said. From the time we did ceremony, we made it clear the mobiles, those spears, were to be laid down and never used again. The word COVID was not allowed to be used. No word that creates fear or terror was allowed to be there. And it wasn't. This is the future. And if you want to attack it, if you want to say these people are wrong, if you want to say they offended people, you're wrong. They honoured the spirits, they honoured the land, and they honoured humanity. If you don't like the way they did it, get over it. And if you don't like the way they did it, change the channel. But remember this, those people and the people in Iceland, the cow, together they turned the machine on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make a point now, and I said this on the last day after. The magic box. That is a term the elders used. Let's get this right. The Anungu elders used that term. But I knew it wasn't a box. But I also knew to say a magic box in the times of Lord of the Rings and all that sort of stuff gives people something to focus on. The box was Uluru. The magic was the rock itself. But if we told everyone on a piece of rock and a landform, maybe some would think, oh no, not really, it's just a rock. But if we say it's a magic box, I never said that, they said that, people aim at it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now can we change that term? There was never a magic box there. If you go back from a long distance and it's on a flat plane, it looks like a rectangular box. Well, it is. That's where it come from. The magic is in the rock. It's been turned on. The other sites have been turned on. The world has been turned on. But the next 3 to 4 years is going to be a rough road. Because the people who are not going to get on, remember the Mayans said there will be 2 roads in the future. Dolores Cannon, I read that at the start. There's 2 roads. One is spiritual transformation and the other one is fear and panic. The people who are saying horrible things, which road are you on? The people who are saying the most disgusting things about us, insulting speakers who are talking about meditation and saying they're directly responsible for causing offence. That elder is wrong. I'm sorry, you are wrong. You were not there. You did not know that we had the phone call. You knew the ceremony was taking place. And if you think this is a blackfella thing, you are doubly wrong. This is not belongs to a colour, it belongs to all of us. And stop taking away the joy that they felt by putting up horrible comments. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to make a point. If you think that the word elder means wisdom, it doesn't. And I want to say what Kano said to me once when I called him an elder. And he said this, he said, I'm not an elder. I've never called myself one. I said, I know that, Kano, but I have a right to call you one. He said, yes, you have that right, but I don't have the right to call it myself. So the people who go around saying time after time after time, I'm an elder, I'm an elder, I'm an elder. You could be, but it's possible you aren't. I don't know. I can only judge you by what you say and what you do. Now, if that elder who says I wasn't there blames people who had nothing to do with it, I don't respect your comment. I don't know you personally, but I do not respect your comment because if you had an issue about this, ring us. And if people don't ring us, if they don't talk to us, and then they demand I respect them, I'm sorry, I can't do it. These are new times. And in these new times, there will be no more division. If you don't like someone, turn your cheek, walk the other way. And if you say anything to them, don't yell at them. Offer your hand and say, you're walking on the wrong road. Get out. Get off. Because from this point on, I thought the division line was then. No, it's not then. It's still forming. Everyone, what you say now is going into your soul. If you're saying you're rubbish, you're garbage, no, you're saying it about yourself, not about the person you're attacking. The words that come out are your words, not theirs.
It's just classic projection.
Yes, your projection, your anger and your resentment on people you've never met or spoken to. I'll say it again. As a teacher, if there was a fight, until I heard both sides of the equation, I would not make a judgment. With the exception of one person who I trusted for the wrong reasons, because I like to trust people, and he betrayed us. Okay, I can live with that. But what I'm asking you people to do, everyone who's listening to this, would you please spread this and send it to others and recommend to others that they listen to this? Because we were there. We were at the ceremony. And the people who are with us are beautiful souls. And I'm going to make another point. The people who arranged this, if it wasn't for Mick and Catherine, who could I have turned to when we were told one day out, the time is wrong? I had to turn to them first. Who brought these people to us so we could give them ceremony? Mick and Catherine did that. They're not gods either. But leave them alone, for God's sake, and stop saying bad words about them, because this time they had a full house and they probably made a bit of a profit. Well, get used to it until the world changes. Unless you have money, the world's difficult. They have a right to have money, and you don't have a right to judge how they've got it. If they did it badly, if they harm people, if they were there with bad intentions, then fine. Make a comment to others, but don't get on the YouTube. If you want, ring them up. Speak to them. But don't do the coward's business and insult them on a piece of paper and press a button and push send. Because what you're pushing and what you're sending, the vile and the anger you're sending, look out. It's going to bounce back and it's going to stay inside your soul and it will hurt you. If somebody makes a profit, why is that your business? What is it for what's it to do with you? Why do you feel you have the right to tell them they don't have that right? Look, I'm sorry if I'm defending them so much, but I have an advantage. I've never met them before today. And by the way, I've heard bad things about them by other people. I've heard appalling things about us too. But you know what I do? And can I recommend everyone think seriously about this from this point on? Don't judge people. Don't make assumptions about other people until you meet them. One of the people at that ceremony, and I'm going to even say his name, Craig, somebody rung me up and told him he's a piece of rubbish. He's a horrible human being. And he kept going on and on and on about this. And I'm thinking, are you talking about yourself or someone else? And that person's probably listening to this. And I'm sorry, mate, I'm going to have to say what I'm going to have to say. And when I first saw him, I thought, geez, he's a bit of a rough-looking bloke. But we'll see how it goes. I got to meet him. And you know what? I've asked him to be on an online conference. And I want him up pretty soon. I'll probably put him up in March, our second one. He's a beautiful human being. He's a lovely person. He might have some faults in him, like I've got plenty, right? But I saw through that, and I saw a really wonderful person. And the first thing I thought is, I want him to talk with us. But I was told he was rubbish. Think about that. I was told this guy was no good. It turns out he's a beautiful person. I want him to talk. I would gladly sit down and talk to that guy for hours, and I would enjoy every moment of it. And I want to finish with this. Before you criticise someone, and someone says bad things about them, what they said about Craig, I took it in advisement. I thought about that. I said, okay, we'll see what happens. And I found out what I was told was wrong. It was wrong. But I had the common sense not to, after being told that, to make an opinion and decide. I waited. And I found out the advice was wrong. Now I'm telling you this. I don't care whether it's an elder. I don't care whether it's a troll. I don't care who it is. None of those people spoke to anyone here. None of those people were there. But they want to suck that joy out of those people who had that joy. That is wrong. And if you go that way, one last time, I'm offering my hand in friendship to all of those people. If you were to go back and ring us up and apologise and say I'm wrong, you're back on the road. Because we can still make mistakes and get on that road. But if you want to keep going that way, and if you want to put out more stuff about us, I just want to make one point. We have been insulted, threatened, cursed. I've got letters from the government, plenty of them, saying they're going to put me in jail. I have hundreds of emails from the government saying they're going to put me in jail. We have been threatened and cursed by everyone. It doesn't work anymore, guys. You can call us what you want. We're experts at receiving crap. And by now, we have thick skins. And what I'm saying is, for every person who talks to us like that, there are 10 that write to us and say the most ridiculously wonderful things and think we're wonderful, and we're not. We're trying. We're nowhere near there. And some of the people complimenting us or me, I look at them and think, mate, you're 4 times more evolved than I am. I know what my limitations are, and I've learnt one thing in life. Don't judge anybody until you know them well. And if you do, that's old way. That's before the ceremony. Now, Evan will be putting stuff up during the day. When you see those photos, send them around the world. cleanse this place, and the people who are putting out vile and horrible things, stop it. It's not hurting me. It's only hurting one person. That's you. If you think the future is about attacking people and making assumptions and saying hateful things to them and assuming things, and I'm going to go back to that elder again who started by saying, I wasn't there. If you aren't there, what right do you have to make a comment? Were you there when the Inunga representative rang me? No, you were not. Were you there at the ceremony when these people, 15 k's away from Uluru, sent so much joy and love? The place resonated in it. I've never been in a meeting like that before. And I'll remember that one for the rest of my life. And I'm hoping, and I may not be asked to the next ceremony, but I'm telling you my role this year is I'm going to go down to Adelaide and set the rocks up, and I'll do talks there. I'm not going to other places anymore. I might be going through Gamilaroi and Wiradjuri country to go to the children and do rock ceremony with them as the rocks go down there, and I'll keep the best rocks for last and do that for them, but I'm taking down a batch of rocks then. Apart from that, I'm not doing any more conferences anywhere again. But on our online conferences I'll make one exception to that. If Mick and Catherine ask me to go back and me and Evan to go back, and they may not, and that's fine, I'm not pressuring. They might feel like that's enough, I don't want that again. I get that. But if they do ask me to come back, I'll go. And so will Evan. It's the only place I'll go to. Because they were the ones, and remember this, if they didn't do this ceremony, I don't believe the box would have been on. They are the ones we should be thanking more than anyone else. If they hadn't put this together, I wouldn't have had that tribe of 350 people to work with. And maybe because the rocks were there that had touched Uluru and been blessed by Uluru, maybe the whole thing wouldn't have worked if they hadn't done it, because their energy went in before anyone else, because we were the closest. So I thank Mick and Catherine. I thank everyone that went to that ceremony, because without you, I don't think the world would have been saved. And I'm going to be, this might sound disrespectful, and it's not meant to be, but I believe of the two groups at the rock, yes, one group turned the machine on and they turned the switch on and they got it into idle. And I believe that's very important. But I believe that group alone dropped it into first gear. And I think between us, we made it happen. And between us means black fella, white fella. There were Asians there. There were regional people there. There were Greeks there. There were all different people from all over the world there. And that's the future. The people who say to us, and somebody says, this is a blackfella ceremony, the rest of you get out of the way. No, you've got to get out of the way. You've lost the track. You lost the road. Remember, the Mayans said there would be two roads. They're open. They're open. Work out which one you want to be on. But if you want to be in the road that I'm trying to get to, I'm not even sure I'm going to make it. But the one thing I've learned is this. Judgmental comments, assumptions are part of the past. Insults are part of the past. Viciousness is part of the past. We're doing a second purge on our YouTube, Facebook, I don't even know what it's called anymore. And we've kicked out 25 more people, not for swearing, but for insulting the ceremony. You insult that ceremony, you insult those people who went there. You insult Mick and Catherine. I don't care about us. We get plenty of insults. You insult the panelists that didn't even know about the damn ceremony until they got there. And if you insult them, then you're on the wrong road. Do not diss them. If you want to insult anyone, do it to us and leave the rest of them alone, because they are wonderful people who help turn the planet on. Do not dismiss them. Ladies and gentlemen, what I ask you to do is when you're finished, when this is finished, I'm about to finish, I've gone way too long, I was going to do 15 minutes, God will know how much it is. When this is finished, ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you, like I asked the mob, when I went back and said, we've got one day to tell the world the timing is wrong. I want you to tell your friends. I want this to spread throughout the planet. I want people to understand that this happened. It's real. And the photos come later. They're coming. Evan will put them up. Have a look at the sky, look at the blue, and look at that thing in Bosnia. And then look at the Schumann resonance, and you'll realise the mother woke up and was with us. We turned Uluru on, and we turned Katajuka on. I've got to make this point. It was very clear to me that those two rocks are together. And what happened at Uluru happened at Katajuka too. They go together, men and women, two sites, they run together. This is all about harmony. And in the future, remember, this now becomes the divine feminine. Men, we've got to pull back on the testosterone. This is what it's about. And of course, most of the people attacking us, well, with one exception, are men. What a surprise. There is one woman, but that's okay. Again, I will never speak about this again. I don't like doing this. I had to do it, but I want to finish on a positive note. I want to thank everybody in the world that participated in this. And I want you to remember one thing, and I told the people at that ceremony, you were there the day the world changed. And you could tell your grandchildren, I did it. I was part of it. Thank you for listening. My apologies for digressing into the negative. I will never do it again, but we had to clean up the dross. And I say it again, from now on, if you want to say horrible things, don't say it to Mick and Catherine. Don't say it to the people who did ceremony here. Don't say it to the people who did ceremony more. Just keep attacking us. We don't mind. And what we're going to say each time is, whatever. And can I tell everyone else the same thing? When people say things to you like that, say exactly the same thing. Whatever. Walk away and then say to yourself, isn't that sad? And it is. Because when you know which road they're walking on, there's still time. Come and join us. Thank you so much. My apologies for the negativity. But remember, we won.